Hey guys, today I've got a really cool video to film. I've been looking forward to it all week. I'm actually going to the founder of the Rare Fruit Club WA's place in Netherlands, and he's got some really amazingly cool exotic productive species all over his property. I can't wait to film. Edible lily pillies and stuff, and custard apples, moringa and all these other things. So I'm just gonna take the board here. Just gonna take the board to the city, and then I'll be skating past the Swan River and hopefully getting some sweet footage, which will start right about now. Yep.
So whatever you say.
So hey guys, we're here at Barry's place in Netherlands, and he's got this incredible garden here, just borderline forested with all these amazing productive exotic species. Really amazing edible syzygiums and jackfruits and figs and carobs and things. So yeah, Barry, if you just wanted to give us a bit of info on you and how you got started with your love of plants and things.
Yeah, okay. Well look, we obtained a property over in Queensland when we retired, and I was a typical sort of workaholic in today's busy society, where I didn't have time to sort of grow anything while I was in the saddle, but I knew I had just about zero life balance, and when I retired I determined to try and sort of improve that. And then part of that was improving my diet, which meant that sort of getting out of junk food and supermarket stuff and into fresh food. I grow mainly fruit trees because we travel quite a lot, and vegetables, they're sort of quick growing, you get a quick return, but you've got to hold their hand just about every day because they're more delicate. And so particularly in our fierce summers, I mean, you just got to water these things and look after them every day. Whereas fruit trees, you take longer to sort of get your yield, your product, but once they're sort of in the ground and they sort of get past the juvenile, more sensitive stage, then you can sort of go away for a couple of weeks and they don't fall over on you.
Right.
So how we actually kicked off then in this other property, when we obtained it, we had avocado and pawpaw and citrus, I think, just standard orange in the yard, all mature plants. And I thought this was brilliant, that I could go down and sort of pick a couple of avocados, because I'd never been in that situation before. And every day or two you go down and get your nice fresh Hass avocados, and these things can cost $4 each in the supermarket. That's what they were last week here.
Yep.
And so this was brilliant, and mature tree, honestly, it would have I could have fed about 4 families with this thing for the whole 3 or 4 months that we're there every year. We're full up with avocados and supplying half the neighbours too.
Right.
And so I thought, well, look, I can do this when I come back here. So our yard had never had any edibles in it, and it was just, all of the plants were just legacy plants. We've been here for more than 40 years. And so I, one by one, because you've got to sort of do these things in concert with agreement with your wife, so we didn't have a clean sheet to ideally place plants, knowing their size and if they needed sort of to be next to a warm wall or whatever. It was one by one, and you sort of retrofit. So when you sort of finish up, 10 years later or whenever, and you see what you've got, you think, well, that's not the ideal spot, but that's just how it unfolded.
Right.
So one by one, I've got, sometimes it's taken quite a bit of niggling, but I've generously got approval to sort of replace almost all the plants in the yard. If they're not edibles, they've slowly, one by one, gone, and just about everything. And after a while, you go beyond just sort of getting enough food for a couple of years, because we're empty nesters, just 2 people, and there's a finite amount that you can eat fresh. So the first thing you learn to do is to process food so that you can sort of enjoy those fruits for a longer period. And then you also sort of broaden the range, the varieties, so that you cover just about all the months of the year. So particularly in the warmer months of the year, I never have to buy anything, and in terms of fruit anyway. And I always have things in fridges. I've got a lot of different technologies that I've worked up over the years: drying, canning, freezing, pulping, you name it, we do it. And so because different fruits require different sorts of ways to handle them, to get them to store long term. You don't want stuff sort of going off on you. That is, you say, I've done something, I've done some sort of non-fresh fruit sort of processing thing. You think it's sort of going to be preserved, and then a month later you come to it and the thing's gone off. Food poisoning's a problem, and so you have to sort of learn to stay away from that. So that's how we got going.
Excellent. And you do all of your own composting as well, by the look?
Yes.
Yeah.
Initially, because on the Perth coastal sand plain, I mean, all we have is yellow gutless sand. It's got 0 water retention, nutrient retention, it's alkaline, it's hydrophobic, it's terrible stuff. And so if you try and grow edibles in that sort of environment, you're really battling. Having said that, not many arable sort of places around the world where you can grow, outside Sahara deserts and Antarctica and so on, have absolutely perfect soil conditions, or you know, the temperatures and rainfall and so on. And where certainly, you know, Australia as a whole is just about the most unfertile continent there is, and in WA we're sort of right at the pointy end of that. So we can actually modify it and improve things if we sort of know how to go about it and we're sufficiently committed. Whereas if you live in an environment where it's all sort of absolutely lava rock, or 3 centimetres underneath the sort of topsoil you have a clay pan or limestone or whatever, like in Florida, which is another subtropical area similar to us here. I mean, they have to basically gelignite or with crowbars dig a hole, put some soil in, then to grow things. It's really tough.
So we are lucky because we can dig our soil.
We're lucky in a way, so we shouldn't just cry that, you know, woe is me, we've got these terrible fierce summers, etc., etc. If you're really serious and you want to do it, you can overcome these things. So in terms of building up or rectifying our soil, composting is one of the key sort of steps that you take. So initially, given it takes years to build up the organic carbon content in this sand, because we start off with zero. We start off with 0 clay, 0 organic matter. And so this is one that you can sort of gradually build up. To get going, what I did was I had a friendly lawnmower contractor, and he could give me as many bags of lawn clippings as I wanted, and so I initially had 3 bins here, and you always fill up 2 and you have 1 so that you can rotate the piles. And also I had a very friendly tree surgeon, and he used to, whenever I put my hand up and said yes, another truckload of wood chips, so that's for my carbon, and the lawn clippings are for the nitrogen component, because when you're making compost, you have to sort of get the carbon nitrogen ratio right. Otherwise the thing will take forever, or it'll never get there. It doesn't heat up, you don't sort of cook and destroy weed and pathogens and so on. And so what I do is I played around for a while, but I thought I'll get a bit more scientific, and you can buy these sorts of things, but currently I'm just filling up a bin, you can see here.
The thermo temperature.
And so what you really need to do is in the core of, once this is full, I'll put this in, and you can then monitor how the core temperature is going. You don't want to go very rapidly. Once you get the mix right, you get the aeration right, and you get the moisture right, you very rapidly get up towards 70 degrees. You can hardly put your foot in it. It's really, really hot stuff. But the outside, on the edges here, that will be less. So you have to rotate it over to put everything through that core.
The outside becomes the inside.
To destroy any weed seeds and so on. And so initially, when I first started and didn't know too much about it, I thought, well, the hotter the better. The trouble is, when you go over 65, 70, you start killing the good thermophiles, so the heat tolerant bacteria that are producing all these enzymes that generate this heat and break down the substances, and you kill them all. So you actually sort of go backwards. So you have to learn when to turn it. And if you're prepared to put the energy in and turn the thing at the appropriate time, within 3 or 4 turns, maybe 4 or 5 depending, you can get this to the stage where it is gone through the very, very hot stage. It's down into the mesophile bacteria, fungi, and it's not yet fully mature, but it's stable enough that you can put it out on the garden without killing plants, because it's still hot, or it's producing all sorts of organic acids and so on, which are toxic to plants, and then I can fill up another one. And so that's the way I worked for probably 4 or 5 years. Nowadays, because all of my plants have got much more mature, I produce enough prunings and so on from my own plants that I can fill these up. I'm now self-sufficient in terms of organic matter.
Yep.
And also, if I get a spade and dig down and so on, you can see that I've got worms, and I've got nice black soil and not yellow sand all the way down, probably for about 40 centimetres at least.
Right.
So the pressure to actually sort of really force feed this process is much less acute now. So that's the process of that.
Before the battery dies, we might have to get a look at your garden pretty quick.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So I've got to speed up.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll just go.
So walking around. This is yellow. I'll go quickly.
Yeah.
This is a yellow cherry guava. And I actually, these things are so prolific, I'm actually giving one of these away. I've got 3, a yellow and 2 reds. The yellows, most people say, are sweeter.
Yeah.
The reds are fine.
Do they have lots of seeds like the red ones?
You have seeds. They all have seeds.
Yeah.
They're like grape seeds. Some people freak out at it and sort of won't eat them at all.
Right.
But actually, if you're not too sort of pedantic, you just swallow them, and there's no big problem. It's not going to kill you.
Yep.
This is a triple grafted Nashi pear.
Get a shot of those guavas.
The standard European pears, you need quite a few chill hours.
Yeah.
Perth only has about some 300 chill hours. And so you really struggle. If you're out in the hills or you get out of town, get out of the metro area, then you can get them to fruit. The Nashi pears, they're more tropical and there's no problem. Pears need a little bit of cross-pollination, so that's why this one happens to be triple grafted.
Yep.
You'll see I've got some grapes. I've got 3 different grape
varieties,
species and varieties. I've got an early and 2 mints.
Yeah.
Mara is seedless, flame seedless.
I've got a beautiful avocado here as well.
This is a multi-grafted avocado that I've done up. It's got 5 varieties on it.
5.
And I thought I'd better stop there because you can't, with avocados, you might know that people say you can store them on the tree. If you do that for too long, the plant, because it's invested so much energy into producing these big fruits, many months, 9 or more months,
withdraw the energy.
Yeah, then the plant has got to build up its reserves for next season, and it will monitor those reserves. And if you've gone too long while it still has the fruit on and it can't get back into regenerating for the following season, then it will just drop off and say, I'm only going to produce 5 fruits this year.
Right.
And half of them it'll self-thin and you'll lose them. And that's called alternate bearing. The simplest one is biennial, where you have 1 on year, 1 off year. You can actually go for multiple years off if you've really done a job on it. This is my best variety on this one. That's bacon.
Yeah, bacon.
But I've got several others, as I said. And this one down here is another avocado because my wife and I both like them. This is a lamb Hass.
Yeah.
It's called Hass. Hass is the 80% of the world trade in avocados, so it's been the dominant one for ages. And everybody said, well, that's it. What do you need any more? And finally, after a long time, people said, let's see if we actually can improve it, because there's probably 15 or more parameters that you can look at in terms of the ideal properties of a fruit tree. This one's called lamb Hass, so it looks like a Hass. It's got that dark skin when it's ripe.
Yeah.
But it's actually a breeding outcome from a Gwen variety. And so you can see what you might just notice when you're looking here that because in our sand, as you're building up the soil, we have very low magnesium. And plants, magnesium is a mesonutrient. You have your macro, mesio and micronutrients. And so what I do every year is I put in dolomite because it's a nice long acting. The trouble is dolomite is alkaline, and we start off with alkaline sand, and avocados ideally like a pH of about 5 to 6, so that's acid.
Right.
What I normally do to offset, so I'm getting my magnesium slowly breaking down and being incorporated into the soil, but to offset that, if you might just see some little yellow sort of spots there, they're sulfur granules. That's the standard sort of way of trying to
rectify the pH.
Bring pH down. So I always put a bit of sulfur on at the same time. This season or this year I didn't quite get it right, and you can see that we've got some chlorosis. Some species are better able to handle that sort of slightly alkaline conditions, and others less so. And on this 5 grafted plant, you can see where the bacon handles slightly alkaline, because I'm still a little bit high, although it's coming down as these sulfur granules break
disintegrate.
down. This is Fuerte here, and it likes less the fact that. Now if you look over here, you can see that figs, they're as tough as nails, and the same sort of deal, but you look at the foliage on these and there's not a problem at all. They're very, very healthy, and I initially started off with about 5 or 6 different sort of fig varieties, because I love figs, and you don't waste anything in them. You cut the stem off, there's none of this, well, you know, it's half of it's a cavity in the middle, or you throw 50% of the volume of the fruit is taken up with inedible seeds or something. Figs, you eat the lot, and it's just beautiful. There's no pollination problems, it just works fine.
That's right.
And one by one I realised I had so many figs I just couldn't cope. So I'm just looking after 1 fig plant in a pot for my son, but this one in ground copes with everything that I need in terms of figs. I'm currently picking these. I just picked these this morning, so you won't see any that are ripe, but here's one that's just coming on. Figs swell enormously in the last sort of week or so before you pick them. So the volume goes up 30%.
And do you cut these ones to make them fruit properly, to bring on the fruit?
What I do is, because figs you have to prune very, very hard. They really want to be a big tree, and they have roots that go out tens of meters, and they'll take over everything, and as fruit trees get too big, you can't handle them. You can't pick them, you can't do anything with them. Here's one that's ripe over here and ready to be picked, that I missed. So that's ready.
It's ready to eat.
That's ready to eat, that one.
It's beautiful looking.
Yeah, this is a brown turkey variant, which is one of the very, very common ones. You'll notice it doesn't have too much of a tendency to split. That is a classic problem with figs. If you don't keep your watering very, very regular, and all of a sudden you've had a couple of dry days, and then when it's into this mature ripening stage, it will split straight away. And you know, you haven't got too long before the thing's going to go right off, and bugs will get in and so on. So I have obviously a bore, and I fertilise with a combination of strategies. I have a fertigation system which we can have a look at. That's where you distribute your dissolved fertilisers through the irrigation system, through the water system, and it's very, very gentle on soil microbes, on plant roots and so on. If you put on 2 concentrated granular fertilisers, mineral fertilisers, onto some of the more sensitive tropicals, then you will burn them, and you can kill them very, very easily. When you fertigate, it's very, very slow and gentle on everything. It's a sensible way to go. The trouble is, when you have a multiple sort of collection and range like I've got, fertigation, because I've only got a backyard, a 1/4 acre, you can't sort of have multiple stations and individually cope with the demands of individual plants. So my strategy is that probably 50, 60, 70% of the fertilisation is done through fertigation. Then you'll see I've got very, very heavy composting mulching for organic matter, which slowly breaks down. That provides another sort of 20 or 30%. And then, depending on how individual plants are going, in terms of looking at foliage and indications of how they're going, and knowing also whether particular species are nutrient hungry or not, I go around and then I will add a little bit by hand.
Right. Shall we move on to some more plants then?
Yeah. Keep going.
Keep getting stuck on things.
This is interesting. The best species for passion fruit in Perth is Sunshine Special. And so typically they're propagated by cuttings. This was an experiment where this is the yellow skin variety, which is quite often used as a rootstock. But so it's very, very much more disease tolerant than the standard sort of purple variety, and that's why people do graft passion fruits, to try and minimise that problem. Because passion fruits might only live for 3 or 4 years. They in the end they get disease after disease, viruses and so on, and in the end they go. This one can last longer, and so what I did was I've multi-grafted on here Sunshine Special onto the yellow. It's called Passiflora Edulus Flavocapa.
Yep.
And so it took a little while to get going, but I've had hundreds of fruit off this one and the other one. You can see here, it's sort of self-thinned itself, and I've just did a clean-up.
Yep.
With the other one, it doesn't do the self-thinning, so you finish up with very, very many layers of the older previous season sort of foliage. And I just leave it there. You have to be very, very careful with passion fruit. If you bend these stems when you're pruning and so on, you will just kill it.
Right. So do you start off with the yellow passion fruit, then grafted the black onto it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just moving around. So standard blueberries.
Yeah.
We just got 3 varieties. Blueberries do better once you can cross-pollinate. But essentially, they have to have very, very acid soil conditions, and we start off with alkaline. So, and they're only small bushes, so they're ideal. You can control your pH. They don't need sort of to be in the ground, and so you put them into 100-litre pots and get your pH down to 4.5, 5.5. These are finished. I have to freeze ice cream container loads of this every year. We get hundreds and hundreds of fruit. They're just ideal. They're very, very healthy. They're nice. Go into all sorts of, blueberry muffins and all sorts of things.
Do you start with the acid mixes as well, or you just
I start with an acid mix, and I keep sort of topping that up. Obviously, where this is extreme, if that's not acid, that's the first thing you have to do. Get it acid, otherwise the thing will just sit there, and if not die, it will go nowhere.
Okay.
And so every year or two, I will sort of re-acidify. I have pH meters. I've got 3 different types where I will check that the pH is in range. If you don't have that, you're gone.
No.
With blueberries, once a particular stem is past 3 or 4 years old, it loses its fruitfulness. And so what you do is you prune the thing back, almost, as you can see here, you prune it almost back to soil level, and then it's the new stems that you will get the next season's fruit.
Okay.
So you don't do that all in one season, or you'll go for 2 years before it all sort of gets going again. So if you have 3 or 4 main stems, over 3 years or so, you plan to have cut out all of those main stems, and then you will maintain your fruit output.
Yep, and I'll just show the cherry guava as well.
Yeah, there's a cherry guava. That's the red fruit.
Yep.
Red cherry guava.
And they're really prolific. They do have quite a few seeds compared to the Feijoas.
Yeah. This is a gramuchama.
Oh, now we're talking.
Finished for this season.
This is South American.
Yes. Brazil. It's called Eugenia brasiliensis. That's one of the species names.
Yep.
That goes a dark black. This is a very beautiful fruit, and you get. I say hundreds. I think hundreds, and you'll get. This is a second sort of crop, although it's not the main crop.
Right.
And again, you can see it suffered a bit from summer. We're coming through that. And also this, you can see here the chlorosis from my sort of dolomite
treatments.
But it's pretty healthy.
Yeah, oh, that's good.
I get a lot. If we just keep going around.
Can't wait to see these syzygiums. There's a rose apple.
Yeah, so just the standard mandarin.
Yeah.
Here's my other Sunshine Special. You can see we're just about finished. I eat a dozen passion fruit every day. I mean, these things are just flavouring agents.
Yeah.
Most people, if you put one passion fruit on the top of some dish or something, they think they're doing well. I get so many of these. I eat them as a major sort of part of my lunch.
Yep.
This is a kiwi berry, so think of kiwi fruit.
Yep.
This is a smaller. They're sweeter than kiwi fruits.
Right, that's interesting.
So they're a little hard to get going, but you can see that I think I'm sort of going to make it on this.
Yep.
So they're beautiful. Sometimes you'll see them on sale. New Zealand, just like they did for kiwi fruit, they've actually decided they're going to run with this. They call it kiwi berry.
Right.
And sometimes you'll see them marketed. They're quite expensive, but in Coles and so on.
Yep.
Just continuing on around, how will we go? This is a rather unusual one, Japanese raisin tree.
Right.
I've struggled with this one. It's even more sensitive to conditions.
Yep.
But you can see with the newer growth, as for many of my plants, I really misjudged conditions this year.
Yep.
But you can see it's finally sort of recovering.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one. It's pretty. It's almost criminal what happens in some of the nurseries. This one here is just a standard olive.
Yeah.
They sell they get species wholesale from the eastern states or wherever, and then they just sell them to the public. And some of these things that they sell, they need 1,200, 1,400 hours chill. You put it in the ground. I bought this one. I think this was one of the first plants I bought. And it sat there for 10 or 12 years or something. It never even flowered.
Right.
So I finally, in desperation, I just decided I would top work the thing. So I just hacked it all back.
Yep. And
you can see here, these are three new grafts.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's here, the first one I put on. This is a giant Kalamata, and you can see how it's taken.
Mm-hmm.
This is the grafting tape.
Yep.
The tape that I use, you don't have to pull it off.
Yep.
Just going around. This is an acerola cherry.
Nice.
They're very, very high in
vitamin C.
Before the chemists made vitamin C for tablets and supplements and so on, this was the commercial way that vitamin C was prepared.
Right.
If you think of oranges, they're the classic sort of standard
archetypal
for
food.
C.
Yep.
50 milligrams per 100 gram of flesh. These things have about 3,000 or 4,000 milligrams.
Yep.
So with that amount of vitamin C, which is ascorbic acid, that makes them very, very tart. And so unless you have a grafted variety, they're almost like sort of eating a lemon. It's very, very strong acid.
Yep. Get the flower in there.
Yeah, they're just the flower there.
Yep.
I don't think you'll see any fruit. It's basically finished.
Yep.
These things, from flowering to picking, 30 days.
Right.
You've got to watch them. You've got to come out every day.
Yep.
A whole lot of olives. Basically, that's serving as a fence.
Yep.
This is a rose apple.
Yep.
It's one of the syzygiums. This thing's one of my most productive trees. I've got bags and bags of frozen fruit.
Yep.
I've just picked this morning. It's finished. I probably had 500 or 600 fruits. They're about that big, yellow, with one or more seeds inside. Very, very nice, almondy-like flavour. Most people have never tasted them, but everybody I've ever given some to, they just think they're fantastic. I think I've supplied people all over Perth with seeds because they germinate very, very easily.
Yep.
Here's my hermaphrodite carob.
Mm-hmm.
Carobs are dioecious, so you need a male and a female. With my backyard and the number of species I want, I can't afford to have males occupying non-productive, non-fruit producing things that are just going to do the pollinating.
Yep.
So if you either graft the male onto the female or else you get a hermaphrodite, and that's what this is. This thing fruited when it was that high.
Wow.
But the thing was, depending on all the plants I've had here, it was going for the sun. That's the north up there, and I've just had to sort of pull the thing up. So you can see this block of limestone here to sort of try and get it going straight. Since I've pulled out that thing, that's fine. This one here is just a standard pawpaw. Interesting story. I get probably 80 or 100 kilos of pawpaws every year because I keep 3 or 4 productive plants. In a subtropical environment like ours, dioecious species where you have a separate male and a separate female plant go better. The nurseries quite often sell, or they prefer, hermaphrodites, that is one plant pollinates and fruits. And so less handling, and people prefer that. Mm-hmm. The trouble is they don't perform as reliably. Now the trouble is, if you pawpaws don't last forever. They're very, very soft, and they get diseases and so on. So I always have some coming through, just like with passion fruit. You always have to have some coming through, so you turn them over. They're not long-lived where you'll have them for 100 years. Yep. And so because they're so easy to propagate by seed, that's the way everybody does it conventionally, and that's the way I did it for a long time. But the trouble is, you get sort of 40% male, 20% hermaphrodite and 40% sort of female from given seeds. And so you're going to lose some if you want to have strictly dioecious, male and female. And so what I've just started doing, and I can show you later one where it's already fruiting, is that this was a male. Once it had declared its hand, I decapitate it. Then on here I do a side graft, because over the years I have selected out really superior females. You can see from this one up here. This is
look at this.
One of my females. What you need in pawpaws is you need plants with a reasonable sort of stem length for the fruits, so that they're not all jam-packed up against the stem, and then you can't get them out and the fruits get all misshapen.
Right.
So that's one of my selected female lines, and I will take a stem from that, from one of my females, and I will graft it on here, and I will convert that over, the whole plant over to female. So then you've got the vigour. Males are usually a little bit more vigorous than the females, and so I've got the vigour of the rootstock male, and then I've got my production on the top end.
Right. Barry, we've got 30 seconds left. As much as I regret to end it.
Well, stop it.
Yeah, we've got to end it here. But thank you so much.
We didn't get round.
I know.
I've got about 50, and a quarter. We didn't get past 10%.
I know. This is literally just a candy shop right here. It's just too much to film. All right, guys. Well, that's the end of part one. I hope you guys enjoyed that, because I sure as hell did.
Just say we got round about 10%.
Yeah, we'll certainly be back again to film the rest of this. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Hey guys, hope you really enjoyed that little interview there with Barry, of the founder of the Rare Fruit Club in WA. Oh my God, I just can't believe I didn't take an extra memory card, or a little battery charger or something like that. I was just devastated that it cut out, but I don't mind, because it's going to be about 30 minutes or so anyway, that first video, so I don't want it to take 5 days to freaking upload like last time. Anyway, I'll definitely be back in the next sort of month or two, and we'll film part 2. So I'm sure a lot of you edible plant fans and stuff got so much out of that, and damn, Barry's such an energetic guy who knows so much. So have to be back there. As long as Barry will have me, I'll be so happy to go back, because yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge. So cheers guys, hope you got a bit out of that. See you in the next video or interview. Thanks heaps for supporting me so far. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and also I forgot to mention, turn that notification bell on so you can receive a notification each time I post a video. Thanks so much guys, all the best, peace.